Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of OneMicNite, the podcast that brings you stories of artists and people on their journey, helping to guide, answer questions, and motivate you in the business and in life. Now, I want to thank everybody for keeping up with me on this journey. We've had a lot of very, very interesting, inspirational people on the podcast. And I appreciate you guys for being with me in this season, which is season 3. And also for following me on OneMicNite Talk, the other podcast with my two other hosts, Liz Menezes and Ashley Elizabeth Green, with the new episodes that drop every Tuesday. So make sure you tune into that. Available on all digital platforms, as well as on the YouTube channel. Today, it's a little bit different. My guest today is goes by the name of Leo Donato, aka Jeffrey Feliz-Ybez. He is a spokesperson for HSWM, which is HIV Stops With Me organization campaign. He's a community outreach person and a trauma-informed peer counselor for a certain New York medical center. He's also a former porn star. So please welcome him to, I hate to say it like that.
Well, no, thank you. Thank you. That was a great introduction.
Is that good? You like that?
You said it quite well.
Listen, I have questions.
I'm sure you do.
The first question is, who is Leo Donato?
Well, Leo Donato is my stage name. It's the name that I use as a porn star. And who is Leo Donato? Well, I guess you can say he's like my alter ego, the other half of me that was more confident, more daring. I'm a shy person by nature, actually. And but Leo is the opposite. Leo is more extroverted and we're just as outgoing, but I would have to say he's more daring, more fearless.
Mm-hmm. What about Jeffrey?
Jeffrey is more, well, Leo lives his entire life in the moment. That's all he lives his life in, the present moment of now. Jeffrey is more of a truth seeker. Like you, I like to hear people's story. I like to know where they came from, and without judgment, without absolute no judgment at all, to understand where they're coming from. I like to understand my own journey, my own purpose in life. And yeah, Jeffrey's way more deep.
Where's Jeffrey born? Where did Jeffrey begin? Where are the beginnings?
Jeffrey was born in Hartford, Connecticut. I was born to Dominican parents, both from the island. So I'm first generation American.
And how did Jeffrey get here to New York? What was the journey like for you getting to New York?
Well, actually, I got here June 17th, 2004, after being kicked out of my home for being gay. So I ended up moving to New York. In 2004, I took the Greyhound bus to New York with my suitcase and myself, my laptop, and that was it. And that was just like the start of my new, I guess you can say my new life, or embracing my homosexuality.
Okay. So growing up, how was your relationship with your family? Did you have siblings?
I'm one of 4, the first male, but the third child. I have 2 older sisters that came before me. Our family was pretty tight knit. You can imagine that in my home, we only spoke Spanish because not everyone spoke English. My mom still doesn't speak English to this day. So it's like, we only spoke Spanish. So in our household, since there was 4 of us, plus my cousin, my grandmother, we didn't really need to associate with, we didn't need neighbors to play with or any of that sort of thing. So we grew up pretty, even though I grew up here in the United States, I grew up very, very much, very Dominican. Dominican customs, Dominican traditions, very much
Was there
so.
a big Dominican community in your area?
Not at all.
Not at all.
There was a big Puerto Rican community, but
Okay.
not a big Dominican community.
Big Latino, but not Dominican.
Not correct. And not dark skin at all.
Okay. Yeah. Which, we know that often plays an issue in a lot of things.
People found it
Especially in the
kind of
States.
odd. How do you know how to speak Spanish and you're Black?
Mhm.
What
What was that like growing up for you? So you went to school in Connecticut, right?
Yeah.
Growing up, did you have any inkling, or was how did that work for you?
Growing up, I didn't have any. I wouldn't say I didn't have any inkling, but whatever inklings I did have, I did not. I shut them out quicker than quick. It was just like, hey, that's not an option.
Right.
I didn't even entertain the idea that it was a possibility.
So
Yeah.
fast forward to leaving your home.
Yeah.
How did that situation all come about? Was that sort of a moment where you realized, or you were very open about who you were with your family? And
Well, I was open, and it all came about because my sister had passed away suddenly. The oldest sister passed away at the age of 26, leaving 2 children, and it was rather suddenly, and that caused like a trauma in me that I just couldn't. There was so many things that I had questions about, and I was so confused. And one of the questions that lingered in my head, because my siblings and we did all the arrangements for my sister's funeral and all that good stuff. So because my parents were both a wreck, and they couldn't make any decisions. But I don't think even if they could make any decisions, they would have made the right ones, because they didn't know my sister the way we knew each other, like us as siblings.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So that was, for me, that was like, I guess you can say that was the question was like, if I died tomorrow, would they even know who I am?
Right.
Oh.
That's always interesting too, because you mentioned the word trauma, and it's always difficult, especially when you have a child pass before you pass away. So that creates trauma in within the household with the parents, and then with that happening, the parents sometimes don't even know how to nurture their kids because they're nurturing their own selves.
Yes.
And the hurt that goes along with it.
And when you come from a family that is many Latinos, even though we are affectionate, we do not know how to unpack our emotions. We don't know how to feel through them. We remain stuck in one emotion instead of allowing it to pass through. Like we keep stopping it for whatever reason. And I didn't choose to go that route. I even actually went the route of seeking therapy, and that was when I was first diagnosed with bipolar.
Wow, that's interesting. It's interesting that you would do that. And what age was this?
Like
This was
something like something was wrong, something was off. I would be sleeping or feeling tired for weeks on end.
Mm-hmm.
Or feeling like I had too much energy. Other weeks, it was like for 3-4 weeks, I wouldn't even need to sleep. So it was like, okay, there is something that's really wrong inside of me.
It's really interesting that you would figure that out. A lot of people don't even understand that they are going through, whether it's a depression or bipolar. And I think kudos to you, because the first part of it is the awareness of it. The second part of it is actually acting on it, which is what you did. So if you got therapy, then
I immediately got therapy, and I didn't even know what therapy was all about.
Mm-hmm.
I just I don't even know how I found that therapist, because it was the oddest thing is that I can remember where her office is, but I don't remember how I even got her information or anything of that nature.
Very interesting. I feel like that's a lot of problem, not only in Latino families, but also in the Black community.
Yes.
People of color.
When I came home with antidepressants, my mom was like, "Are you crazy? You're not crazy. You don't need to be taking those pills."
Yes, that's the general response.
You're going to become dependent on those pills, and then you're not going to be able to function later on. You're always going to have to be able to, like, no, that's not going to happen.
Right. And this is a huge problem that we have in the community, in our, people of color community, because of the stigma that is associated with having therapy and not being normal and being looked at by people outside of not being normal. And there's something wrong. You're crazy. You're supposed to handle that in your own home.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, my mom wasn't dealing with the trauma and wasn't talking about it. My other sister didn't live there anymore. She was already living with her then boyfriend, who is now her husband now, the father of her second child. My younger brother, he wasn't dealing with the trauma. My father wasn't dealing with the trauma either. Nobody was. And then my grandmother, who perhaps would have been the only one to talk about the trauma, she was told the trauma, but then she forgot about it. Because she kept asking for my sister every now and then. She didn't have Alzheimer's or anything like that, but for whatever reason, she just blocked it out of her mind, and it just became like, well, why even remind her of it all over again? So just leave it.
So then you decided to leave, fast forward to New York.
Well, then I, throughout my, I guess you say my therapy, I was unpacking stuff that needed to be said about my homosexuality, and there I came to terms with who I was, and then I decided that I wanted to tell my parents. I wanted to let them know who I was, and of course that came with the repercussion of getting kicked out of my home. I don't want you near the children. All those insults.
The typical stereotypical things that people think and say. And yeah. Well.
So I just came to New York. That was just, there was no other option,
So New York in 2004, how was that?
Oh. Well, I moved right around this time, right around Pride. Mm-hmm. And the first year I didn't even know it was Pride. Well, I came to find out it was Pride by my roommate, which I had found her on Craigslist. I just only spoke on the phone once, never saw each other in pictures or anything, just like spoke. I'm ready to move. Okay, yeah, here's the address, come meet me, and that was it.
Interesting. I think a lot of us have those stories too. I moved to New York from Chicago, and you kind of do the same thing. You meet someone online, or you find a way, you know someone who knows someone, and you exchange information, and you take a leap of faith, and you just go.
Yeah, of course. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I take that leap of faith. Everyone was like, "Are you crazy? You don't know this woman. You don't know if she's crazy." I was like, "Well, how bad can she really be?"
Right.
And this was at the beginning of the internet. Remember, we were still on AOL.
Right.
AOL was
2004 was still AOL. That's right.
Was still AOL. Yahoo had Yahoo, and I think Yahoo. I don't know if Google had come about.
I don't think Google came around. I think there were Yahoo chat rooms or something, and AOL chat rooms, right?
It was Yahoo, the one that was really thriving. Mm-hmm. Internet Explorer, but we did not have Google yet. Right. Google came, I think, like a year later after that. But
that's funny.
So
what was life like for you in New York, 2004?
Well, it was overwhelming. It was completely. The city was very big. Mm-hmm. It was moving really at a fast pace, and there was so much to learn, because not only was I moving to New York as myself, but I was moving to New York as a new, I guess you could say, new inductee to the gay community, and I knew nothing about gay culture, gay behaviors, nothing at all, I grew up very sheltered in Connecticut, not knowing anything about the gay community at all whatsoever. What to expect, where to go, how to meet people. All of that I learned pretty much as on the fly here in the city. So the city was pretty overwhelming. I moved here without a job. So I was looking for work at the same time. I had just enough money to last me 3 months. So, well, 4 months. And then it was like, okay, I have to find a place or a job or I'm going to be out in the street.
Mm-hmm.
And because it was month to month, I was fine with the girl, but it was like, okay, money's going to run out soon.
Right. Got to get a job somewhere.
Yes, which is how I stumbled upon the adult industry. So that first year, I ended up going to the parade. Well, I had gone to the parade the year previous with a friend.
Mm-hmm. I want to say, just for everybody who's listening out here who may be living under a rock and don't know what Pride is, it's a month of celebration of the gay culture, LGBTQ plus culture, of solidarity and people coming out and things like that to as gay, and a unit of solidarity for that community.
So I'm going to try and like speed this up because it can be okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sometimes long-winded. Okay, so the year 2003 Pride, I came to the parade for the first time with a friend. I had already been in therapy for quite some time with my therapist, so I decided to I first came out to myself. That was the first Pride that I came out to myself. I came to the parade. I ran into Michael Lucas from Lucas Entertainment. He gave me his business card, said, I would like you to film with me. So I called him up. I ended up filming. That was my first adult entertainment film that I had done. I'd done it just for shits and giggles, just to say I did it and that was it. Fast forward to the following year, I'm walking through the parade and I'm thinking inside my head, if I don't get a job, then I can always do porn. It was like in the back of my mind. So I ended up contacting Michael again, and he didn't have anything for me at the moment, or he did have stuff for me at the moment, but he didn't have stuff that I wanted to do. I didn't want to bottom on camera ever. It was just like, I was just like, I don't want to do that part. But he's like, I'll keep you in mind, so on and so forth. That's how I stumbled into Chelsea guys escorting, and I ended up doing that for a little bit. Then I ended up getting a job at an advertising agency. But I would say like 3 months later, by September, I was already working full time at an advertising agency. Still, New York was very overwhelming. People were very disposable.
That was my next question. Did you have a hard time finding friends, like real friends, people
Absolutely.
that supported you? Yeah.
Absolutely. I found a lot of people to go out to the clubs with. I found a lot of people to hang out with, to do all the anything that was sex or parties. I could find a ton of people to engage with.
Right.
But when it came to going to movies, doing anything along those lines, no one at all. And at the time, I was pretty broken. Roll around. It was Thanksgiving, and it was like everyone's with their families, and here I am without a family. Then Christmas came around. It so happens that if I had met this guy over the summer, who was an escort when I was doing the escorting, trying to learn the escorting, because we were with an agency that taught you step by step how to escort and how to like treat a John, how to do everything.
Really?
It was called Chelsea Guys. It was the best.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was the best education I can say I got.
Interesting. I guess, I mean, for any community, it would be the same as in a heterosexual community. When women are meeting men, the same thing. They you're an escort. So there's probably an organization or something that teaches them how to escort for men.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I don't think there is.
No?
There is an organization that actually teaches you. You kind of pick up the tricks of the trade from other models, or other entertainment or other sex workers. But like Chelsea Guys was an escort agency. Actually, they charge about $1,400 for an hour. Okay, so
wow,
they really trained you completely in terms of how you should be, how you should present yourself, how you should show up, when to collect the money, everything, all about it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
How to deal with questions that they may ask you for entrapment, in case the person is a police officer who's trying to entrap you, what not to answer, what to answer, all those questions.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, yeah, wow. So that's like...
and from them, I also learned gay culture, like how to douche, how to clean out, all that good stuff that you would get taught, how to know when you're fully, everything is good, you know what I mean? Because I don't go by that tradition of don't eat the whole day,
Right.
You can eat whatever you want, you just have to prepare.
Take care of yourself, yeah.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't find you, it's not like they would find you a room and board or anything like that. It was just an agency to help you get clients, to secure your money, groom you in a way that you're presentable.
Yes.
Speech is okay, and to watch out for certain things, there would be, like you said, entrapment for the police.
Yes.
Okay.
What to do in case of an overdose, what to do. They taught you all of that good stuff in case your client overdoses, in case your client does this, and in case there's violence. All of that, because you could potentially run into any of those situations.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's interesting. That never even crossed my mind. So, okay, in terms of you, and you don't have to say or not, but was there ever a dark time where you fell into the trap of, relying on too much alcohol or too many parties or things like that? Was that ever part of your situation?
That was from the beginning. I moved here broken. I'll be honest, I moved here completely broken. Imagine being like from a tight-knit family and then having nobody. And they're still alive. You don't talk to them, you don't communicate with them. Your nieces, your nephews are all growing up not knowing who you are. So I moved here very broken. Of course, alcohol and substance use was part of the
journey, yeah.
Part of like the numbing. What I used to quiet down the demons, or what I would have to say is like, quiet down those voices inside of you that say this part of you is broken, or this part of you needs healing, or this part of you needs attention when you're home alone.
Right.
Those are the things that come to mind. It's like, what is it that you can fill up your while you're at work. And I used to work long hours. I would stay there from like 9 in the morning, and I would stay up to 9 at night. But that is just from Monday through Friday. What happens on Saturday, Sunday? True.
Yeah, and especially if, like you said, if you're not surrounded by people who aren't really your friends, who care about you, who love you.
And you don't have no one to really talk to and open up to, like you really. Yeah, you just don't have anybody.
It's very hard, yeah. And it's not just, sadly, it's not just the gay community. It's a lot of people who come here from, smaller cities who have, like you, who have left their home because of whatever reason and are here searching to find themselves, to look for a job. You don't find friends. That's why we see a lot of the homeless people on the street. Some are kids, some are young. Mm-hmm. It could be that they're LGBT. It could be that they just decided they wanted to get away from their small town and got caught up in drugs. I've seen some of my friends have even gotten caught up, in the scene, and as you say, chewed up and spit out.
Yes.
And not recovered,
Well, I ended up being homeless because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was rude awakening.
Mm-hmm. What was that like? And I don't want to, if you don't want to go back there, you don't have to go back there, but
no,
I just want to give people an idea of what
was that like? Again, I was still very, very much lost.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to fully connect, or I didn't know how to ask for the proper help.
That's
I had gone to GMHC, and I had gone to the
What is GMHC?
GMHC is Gay Men's Health Crisis.
Okay.
Crisis. Okay. It's the organization that was started for many people who are HIV positive, but they service the whole entire community, mental health and all that good stuff. It's just basically like an organization that provides services, counseling and all that, like support and all that good stuff.
Okay.
So I had gone there for services, or actually I had gone there to try and meet someone on a regular, not outside of the club scene, so that, because I was thinking in my head, okay, well, if I meet someone and we kind of hit it off and we bond and we vibe together, we can establish a relationship. I can heal through the involvement, you know?
Yeah.
It didn't happen that way. It just didn't. And
so they would have like meetups or meetings where you could meet socials. Other people? Okay. Yeah. Socials or what?
Yeah. And they would have like coffee and whatever for you to come in. There were even some classes if you wanted to take computer classes, or if you wanted to, for a lot of the people are homeless. So I didn't find like I connected with a lot of people at the organization. I didn't find that I connected with too many of them.
Right.
I didn't connect with too many of them at the Gay and Lesbian Center and in the West Village either. It just seems to have like a lot of different groups in a lot of different rooms. Let's just put it this way. When I first moved here, I knew I was in New York. I'm in the mix, but I'm not a part of the mix. It was like having something that just did not mix into the, like you put something that's supposed to mix in with the cake batter. Right. I wasn't mixing it. I wasn't. Yeah. I was still remaining solid and like my shape in this batter of cake.
Right. It's funny. I always say, we all have issues, and I call them shoes, but you have to find someone else whose shoes fit your shoes. And probably, all those people had their own, things going on, but you weren't compatible just because, you may be gay, or you may be, Black, you may be Latino, it doesn't mean that we're going to connect.
Yeah.
So there was a connection missing for you on that point. Yeah, I understand.
There was so much missing, and then at that very same moment, Manhunt had emerged as the first, one of the first hookup websites. So it was just so much easier to just connect with people. I substituted physical connection for emotional connection.
Yeah,
it was that simple, because right. It was easier than trying to establish a connection with men.
Right. Exchanging, sexual experiences for intimate experience and love. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at that point, I knew that I wasn't looking for love, because I wasn't going to let anybody in to see the broken parts of myself. I knew it wasn't love that I was looking for. Mainly companionship.
Companionship. Yes. Okay. All right. So fast forward to where we are today, because the reason why I wanted to talk to you is because, of this incredible journey that you've already had, but now you're embarking on a whole nother journey, which I think is admirable. You're actually helping people, in a way that's, taking people down away from the path that you were on.
Yeah.
Leading them somewhere else.
Well, let's just put it this way. During that entire time of being broken, not knowing how to heal myself, not knowing where to go for healing, not knowing that I even needed healing. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
I made many decisions. Among them was the decision not to get tested. So I decided not to get tested for many years, to know my status, my HIV status.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know exactly why I decided that I didn't want to get tested. I just decided that I didn't want to. Like, if it was going to happen to all of us, because back then it was more of a question of when is it going to happen to any one of us. It was not so much if it's going to happen, it's just like a matter of when it's going to happen. But we're basically all doomed to get it sooner or later.
Interesting.
Yeah, because we didn't have PrEP. We didn't have, they kept saying about the studies that are going to come out, that we want you to be a part of these studies. But that went on, that dragged on for forever. We're searching for individuals. But there was no data being communicated to the public about this is what we are trying to test. You know what I mean? Like, we have gotten this far and we believe that this is true, but we are trying to test this. Because there was so many different parts to PrEP and all of that, and U equals U, which is undetectable equals untransmittable, was a big thing. Your doctor kept telling you, we want you to become virally suppressed. But there was no reason why they were asking you to become virally suppressed. There was no explanation as to why.
Okay. So I kind of I want to do this to explain this to people, because there's a lot of terminology that's going on. So what is PrEP?
PrEP is a drug regimen treatment that you take daily. Mm-hmm. Well, first I would say it came out as a daily one pill a day regimen treatment that prevents you from becoming HIV positive if you are exposed to the virus. It basically protects your cells from the virus entering into those cells and mutating the cell and using that cell to manufacture more HIV copies of itself.
Okay, got it. So it's not exclusive to just the LGBTQ plus community.
No, it's for everybody.
Okay.
Everyone can actually take PrEP, and they're completely fine. There is one transgender, female to male. There might be some, when it comes to transgender individuals, please go to the CDC and look at some of these, because there might be some restrictions. I'm just reading for them. Well, I'm just telling you for the most part, for most people, but there might be some differences when it comes to transgender individuals. Don't quote me on this. I can't keep them all straight in my head.
Right. And we'll put all the links to those things. I'll put all the links to those things in the notes of the episode. So yeah.
Well, they can always visit the HIV Stops With Me campaign, HIVstopswithme.org. And there we have a list of resources, and we'll link you to everyone that you need to be linked to in order to find what you're looking for.
Absolutely. Let's talk about that for one quick second too. And I did a little perusing on the website myself too, because I wanted to know. So HSWM, they have advocacy and activism, a link for resources, housing, mental hygiene, anti-violence, legal aid, housing, nutrition, syringe access and exchange, which is an important thing to know too, that HIV is not exclusively to people of the LGBTQ plus community.
Correct.
And I want to hit you with a couple of statistics, because I know for a fact that according to HIV.com, 7% of the new cases are drug users. Heterosexual are 23% of all diagnosis, 7% men and 16% women. Mm-hmm. Where Blacks and Latinos are obviously disproportionately infected, Blacks being 13% of the US population, but 44% of the new HIV cases. Hispanics and Latinos, Latinx, 18% of the US population, but 30% of the new cases. So that kind of hits you really hard. And then, according to it's HIV.gov, excuse me, HIV.gov, they also say that there are certain areas in the country where you can break it down and find out too. The South is 15.2%. The Northeast is a whopping 9.4%. The Midwest is 7.2%. And when you go out West, it's 9.2%. So there's certain areas that, you know, you can kind of see where the HIV is hitting the hardest.
Well, the Black, especially African American community, has the highest. It's basically predicted that 1 in every 2 any member of the LGBTQ will, during the course of his life, become HIV positive. 1 of every 2. So go to any club in Harlem and just divide the room in half.
Right.
Quite a lot.
So they're saying 1.2 million are living with it. Do you feel like in the last couple of years, I know we had a pandemic, do you feel like it's been pushed like completely to the back burner?
I think that during the pandemic, and even after the pandemic, yes, because that's just the culture of America. One thing like takes the place of another. Instead of saying we still have this problem and we have a new one that has come up that takes precedence, or it is taking priority right at this moment, but we can't forget the other ones that we're still dealing with.
Absolutely.
But America tends to be more of like our news stories. One story knocks another one out of the trending spot, and then we're no longer talking about the old one that was a big issue. Now we're just talking about the new one that's trending.
You think it's because we, you know, as we just said with the statistics, that it's mainly the marginalized community that's just kind of being brushed to the side? The Latinos, Latinx.
But that's always been
Blacks.
The truth.
Mm-hmm.
That has always been the truth, because the American government had really never cared for the Latino or Black community in terms of whether we live or we die. They're obviously killing us all the time. Police officers are killing us. So, you know, they had that experiment with, which they did long ago with the African American community. The
Tuskegee Institute, yeah.
Okay, so there was that whole experimentation that they did with all people of color. Many people think that COVID is another experiment to try and eradicate people of melanin skin. And you could see where that is. There is some truth. You could see where that can generate some people to believe that it is possible that this was an experiment to try and eradicate more African American or people of color,
or gay population, too. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
In general, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Do you think that what's the stigma behind it all?
The what?
The stigma. What do you feel like there's, why do people with HIV, nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to, say that they have it.
Well, I'll tell you this, the honest to God reason is because of this. Because HIV is, for the most part, most people become HIV positive through sexual intercourse, or through the use of drug use, syringes. So many people feel that they made a conscious choice to become HIV positive.
Yeah.
They see it as a flaw, but nobody is questioning anybody who gets into a car accident. We all get behind the wheel, and no one's questioning. It's just nobody has sex with anybody with the intention that they're going to get HIV.
Right. To get an
And
STD.
just like
STI.
nobody enters a car with the intention that they're going to get into a car accident.
Right.
It's an accident that just happened. But for whatever reason, because driving is a necessity, because having sex falls under the moral clause.
Right. Yeah.
Of morality. And
right.
We live in this world where the very act that created life is we shame upon it. Because
right.
Even though the only reason why we're all here is because somebody had sex with somebody else.
Right.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, just saying.
Right. So it all goes back to religion. Yeah.
Yes.
And what your religious beliefs are. How do we, just as people living in the world, not just the United States, but how do we dispel this whole thing? How do we, get rid of that stigma around it?
By more individuals who are like myself. In the campaign itself, we have 29 or 28, or I don't know, you can count the number of individuals that are there, but normally it's between 25 and 30 spokesmodels who are HIV positive from all different circumstances. Some are born with it, some are perinatal. I believe that's when the mother passes it through the breast milk. Some are, there's just all sorts of different individuals. HIV does not discriminate against your color, your sexual orientation, who you are, none of that. HIV is an equal opportunity, I guess you can say, virus. If you are a host, it will invade your body if it gets the opportunity to do so. And it can happen to almost just about anyone, from the first time you have sexual intercourse to the 100th time. You know what I mean? I know some people that probably had more sex than a porn star, and they are
right. Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. How do we? Yeah, that's a big one.
It's having more individuals like myself just coming out and saying, this is what my reality is. Individuals who are not afraid to talk to their families, to their friends, because this is the way you prevent it among your tight-knit circle, is if you're open about it.
Right.
If you just take, you can manage your own HIV by yourself at home. And if you tell no one, great, wonderful. You're managing yourself. There's been a ton of celebrities that have passed away. Her Brits, McQueen was HIV positive. Her Brits was HIV. There's so many individuals who have a platform that they could actually speak about this, and they haven't used it. And I don't understand why. Other than Magic Johnson, we haven't had anyone of celebrity status come out and talk about their status like that.
Right.
Well, we just had this the guy from Pose. He actually
yes.
And no, he didn't. He didn't say anything about his status. I was thinking Ricky Martin, but
no, he didn't say anything. Definitely didn't say anything. But yeah, you're right. Having people with a larger platform talk about it would certainly help this situation. And I think that just education about it and knowing that being careful, preventive measures, wearing a condom. Obviously you're a human, you make mistakes, but knowing that if you do contract it, that you can still live a healthy life, you can still manage your life, still know that, it doesn't, once your T cells are at a certain level, there's a lot you may not pass to your partner. There's a lot to unpack when it comes to HIV. The most important thing that I would say, if you ask me why am I HIV positive today, I will tell you the only reason is because I did not educate myself at all about what HIV was. I had no education. I knew nothing about HIV other than that it was, you could get it through unprotected sex and through the sharing of needles.
Those were the only two facts I knew about HIV.
Wow.
I knew nothing else about HIV. I knew absolutely nothing else.
And this is why I wanted to have you on the show, is because what you do is you go out to the community and you do outreach and you educate people. And where are some of the places you go? Do you do it in the center, or do you actually go to different locations or schools, or?
Well, well, I have the privilege and the luxury of doing it through my patients that I have at work.
Okay.
So I have that flexibility. But when it comes to advocacy, I do a lot of it. I do a lot of it online through sharing of my personal story. I'm now starting to do it more. The country has opened up and New York has opened up and is safe because of COVID. I'm starting now to get out more in the community, and here in Harlem, I tend to do it more. So I'm trying to reach the younger demographic, the ones that are going out, hanging out, partying, that whole crowd.
Right. That's right. Because once that gets into the mix, your whole guard gets let down and everything.
Well, there's alcohol and everything like it. And if this is just a reminder, just go get tested.
Right.
Because your life already changed a long time ago. Whether if you're HIV positive, your life changed a long time ago, whether you know your status or you don't. So you might as well know it, because you can prevent a lot of things from happening to you. Because once you allow your immune system to be so compromised that it reaches the level of AIDS, no longer HIV, but AIDS, then it becomes not so good.
Okay. More difficult to manage in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Gotcha. One last thing you'd like us to know about either your journey or what you're doing with the organizations, or where we are, with the HIV situation and hope for the future?
That HIV nobody's at fault. When it comes to HIV, there is nobody to blame. There is no finger to point at. Nobody is at fault. But we are all responsible for HIV. And that includes HIV negative, HIV positive. We are all responsible for this virus because we all have an HIV status. Every single one of us. You can be HIV negative, so you have an HIV status. I am HIV positive, I have an HIV status. We're all responsible for this virus. And it's a human problem, it's a human issue, and we have to address it together, working together, communicating together. It is not just the responsibility of one versus another. No, this is the responsibility of us globally, all together. And there's nobody at fault and nobody to blame. It happens. Let's focus more on addressing the virus. For those who are HIV positive, let's address how they can get linkage to care, remain in care, adhere to their treatment so they can reach an undetectable viral load, because being undetectable means you're untransmittable. So that means I cannot transmit this to anybody at all. No matter how much unprotected sex I have, I cannot transmit it to anyone. So if that's the case, if everyone who was HIV positive currently at this very moment, that was the case, there would be no new infections if we were all undetectable. But we also have a large population that don't even know their status, that they're afraid to get tested and so on and so forth. So again, this is the responsibility of all of us. It is not just HIV positive or negative, and there is no shaming anybody, because everyone has a different story, and nobody intended this to be the outcome. It just so happens that it's the outcome. So the one thing you can do is be responsible. If you have a car accident, Don't you call your insurance company? Don't you follow all the steps in order to get yourself back on the road, right?
Yeah.
So this is this. We had a car accident, so now we're just the individuals who were affected have to follow the steps in order to get back on the road again and not endanger other, you're not going to get on the road with that same broken car that is not fixed, that the wheel's broken. You're not going to get on the road because you're endangering not just yourself, but other passengers.
Other people,
So what exactly are we doing? Those who have been affected, those are affected, not infected. Because you are transmitted the virus. We don't use the word infected anymore. But those who are affected by this, by the virus, all they have to do is just get the necessary help, treatment, so that they are not endangering other individuals and they're also taking care of themselves.
There you go. That means take responsibility.
Yes, and that's how you will slay HIV.
There you go. Okay. See that? I like that.
HIV stops with me.
There you go. And I want to take a quick look over there. So everybody who's watching the video podcast, there's a beautiful photograph of the spokesmodel right here. Can you see?
I hope they can see.
They can definitely see it. Also, the one last thing, tell us how we can get in touch with you and how can we find out more?
Well, on Twitter, I am at Leo Donato XXX. On Facebook, I am Leo Donato, aka Jeffrey Feliz-Ybez. On Instagram, I am Jeffrey_JS. And you can always catch me on HIVstopswithme.org. Not only myself, but an array of other spokesmodels. All their stories are just as beautiful and as intriguing and as motivating as my own story. And then of course you could always find me at work if you are looking for treatment or need help or counseling or any of that nature, or need somewhere to get tested for HIV, STIs, you name it, to get on PrEP or get more information about PrEP, PEP, and other ways to prevent HIV. You could always visit me at Montefiore, that is up in the Bronx, Montefiore Medical Center. There's also the OVO at Montefiore, which is a sexual health clinic, which is all sexual health related. So it doesn't matter what it is, it's all sexual health related. You don't even need just to ask for me. You can please just go there. The staff will help you and they're wonderful and they will assist you. I mean, this is what we do.
There you have it. You said a mouthful. I'm going to put all that stuff in the notes because I want everyone to please have access to that information. This has been a beautiful, beautiful episode. Lee, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I know you've inspired, you've helped so many people with this information. Thank you so much. Please come back anytime. It's Gay Pride Month, but this episode is not just for the LGBT plus community. This is for everyone. So I want to thank everybody who's tuning in to this episode. Please share the information. Look Lee up if you need help, if you have questions. Please follow him on all his social media. And I want to thank you guys all for listening to the podcast. Thank you for joining me on OneMicNite. Please, OneMicNite is spelled ONEMICNITE. We're on all digital platforms. You can find us on OneMicNite on YouTube. You can follow me at Marcos Luis. Marcos Luis is MARCOSLUIS. Also, make sure you take a run over to the Harlem International Film Festival website, where you see me as I was the host of the Harlem International Film Festival 2020. There's some talkbacks with filmmakers on there you can take a look at and support the independent artists on that platform. Thank you guys all for joining me. I'll see you next time. Bye.